conversation today. I would just say I love sort of the atmosphere that you bring, Barry, to this, and we're
Thank you.
really excited to be part of this community, the DPAA community. So thank you very much for that. Today we're talking a little bit about the rise of the performance channel, right? Going from awareness to ROI, and so we've got kind of a fun conversation. We've got some metrics, and we're going to share all those today. Before we get into that, I think the next slide here is a quick introduction. So I'm the CRO of ABC Insights. You know, if you don't know, we do omni-channel, cross-media, right? Well, however you want to say that, full funnel advertising effectiveness research. Certainly a focus on sales effects, but we measure the entire funnel. I was going to have Kate introduce herself, but apparently everybody knows Kate already. But Kate, if you want to say hello, please feel free to do so.
Hi. Oh, yes. Thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm Kate Scapitici. I'm Chief Operating Officer at Groundtruth. I think everyone here knows who Groundtruth is, but we are an omni-channel DSP. We started out many years ago as a mobile DSP, and we've expanded our channels to CTV, audio, direct mail, and digital out of home. We deliver media to targeted audiences built from real world behaviors like visits, purchases, etc. And then we attribute store visits back to media served on those channels. So, a bit about Ground Truth, and very excited to be here with you, Tom, and Barry, and the whole team here.
Thanks for joining, Kate. Okay, let's take you through a quick agenda here. We're going to start with this notion of a measurement dilemma and how measurement may or may not have played into how out of home is ultimately viewed by as a media tactic. So we'll talk a little bit. Kate's going to talk about that. Then we'll talk about the new norm, right? How we're closing the measurement gap. And from where I'm sitting, frankly, it's a performance gap, right? Out of home is delivering in a lot of different ways, not just branding. And so we'll show some specific metrics and compare out of home to other media. I think that'll be really interesting data. We'll then jump in and do a little work on some case studies. We'll provide some closing comments, and then, as always, the Q&A here for the community. We'll jump into that as well. And so I think, Kate, you've got the measurement dilemma.
I do. I do. And before we get into it, just kind of taking a step back, I know I just explained Ground Truth and who we are, but really our entire business is built on one belief, which is that every media impression that we serve should be accountable to real world outcomes. And I know Tom and Jerome and ABCS Insights, you share in that belief, and it's why our two companies have formed such a deep partnership. Um, and I'm excited that we're here and talking about something that is near and dear to both of our hearts, which is tying real results and outcomes to all types of media, not just the lower funnel media channels, but the upper ones, the upper funnel ones too, that have been, historically looked at as not measurable, like audio or podcasts or streaming radio or CTV, and what we're here to talk about today, which is digital out of home. For years, we would hear our customers talk about digital out of home and the measurement dilemma that they were running into. We heard, and the feedback that, again, that we would hear from our customers is that digital out of home was an effective channel, but they couldn't tie real business outcomes like visits or sales or purchases or ROI to it. Here specifically, here's just some anecdotal feedback that we would hear from brands and agencies when we were contemplating adding digital out of home to our DSP. And this feedback was specifically from teams that manage performance marketing budgets. Initially, the feedback was, you can see it here on this screen. We think it's an interesting channel, but it's not measurable, and we need to justify every media dollar that we spend, especially in the last few years as budgets have fluctuated and budgets have been decreasing and planning cycles have shortened. So, we think it's a strong upper funnel channel, but until you can tie foot traffic or sales or ROI to it, or properly connect it to the other channels in my media mix, then digital out of home isn't really the performance marketing channel that we think that it is. And so it's interesting, and if you go to the next slide, what's interesting is that digital out of home has always been perceived as an effective awareness and consideration channel. In a survey, we surveyed, I think, about 1,000 customers, and we learned that digital out of home is more than a top of funnel awareness strategy. it's one that does drive consumer decision making and leads them to purchase. So some stats here. About more than half of consumers that we surveyed say that they notice digital out of home ads always or often. About another half of them are saying that they are more likely to notice out of home or digital out of home than other channels. So, beyond awareness, consumers are actually remembering the ad. Almost 70%, so about two-thirds or so, remember a specific brand or product after seeing a digital out of home ad. And about 40% of them end up, Googling or ChatGPTing, whatever your AI platform of choice is. They Google that brand afterwards. So all that to say, consumers have said that this is an effective channel, but the gap was always, well, did that ad on a digital out of home screen lead to a store visit or to a purchase? Can this channel go beyond the awareness and consideration, and can we actually tie real ROI to it? So the consumer signal was always there. The missing piece was measurement, the measurement sort of infrastructure to really capture it. And so if you go to the next slide, that's exactly what we, Ground Truth and ABCS, set out to do. On the Ground Truth side, before we launch a new media channel or offering, we figure out the attribution or the measurement piece of it first. Because again, our business is grounded in delivering real results to our customers. So if we serve an impression, our job is to tell you how that impression impacted your business or your business's bottom line or your P&L. So that's exactly what we did. I mentioned this before. We are an omni-channel DSP whose attribution technology is channel consistent, meaning we measure digital out of home the same way that we measure mobile or CTV or audio or any other channel that we're serving impressions to. And through our partnership with ABCS Insights, we now extend that measurement to purchases. And what's unique about this partnership that we have with ABCS Insights is we are not giving you a proxy metric for visits or for purchases. We are both applying the same measurement rigor that you'd expect from any performance channel. So, Tom, I'm going to tag you in to talk
Yeah.
about sort of this new norm, this new measurement norm that we're living in, which is that out of home, digital out of home is now very much a performance channel. So, Tom,
Very much so. I would agree, Kate. And just to double down on your perspective, we've been working together since 2023, early 2023, and we've been doing sales effect measurement for Ground Truth on other media, right? They are an omni-channel DSP. And so for mobile, CTV, and other media, we've been doing sales effect measurement for years. And so, it was sort of a natural extension, right? As you guys took on out of home media for us to measure that, right, as part of your overarching sort of delivery. So yeah, I mean, it's been a great partnership. And if we go to the next slide, the question marks that were on Kate's slide previously, yes, right. In fact, people that saw out of home ads, 57.5% of the time bought the product that they were seeing. And, that's a recall. It's recall, but it for me, this stat actually resonates, right? If you think about it, right, I'm driving down the highway and I see a sign for McDonald's. I'm a weak man, so I'll pull over and I will go get a Big Mac for sure. But like it's not a stretch to think that, hey, I can see an ad, remember an ad, and then it drove a particular purchase. But what we're finding in the marketplace is that just that's not good enough, right? We need verifiable information, verifiable data that a campaign drove the purchases, or in particular, incremental purchases of the advertised brand. And so that's what we're really here to talk about. And if we go to the next slide, there's a sequence of KPIs that I want to take you through. And before I do that, just really high level sort of foundational understanding, like what we do. Um, we've got a modern platform at ABCS Insights where we're measuring outcomes and exposures, right? Outcomes and exposures. And primarily through a number of different tactics, we're measuring exposure deterministically. So we know someone has actually seen that ad, and then we ultimately convert that over or understand what they bought as a result of that, primarily the advertised brand. So now we have this group of people that have seen the ad. We create a control cell, right? A group of people that look exactly like the test cell, right? But with one exception, they haven't seen the marketing execution. And so it's the difference between that control and test that gives us incrementality. And so for digital out of home and out of home, and this is really a critical metric. iROAS is the metric we're talking about here. We saw that iROAS, right, the medium iROAS for an out of home digital out of home campaign was $1.58. That's a really impressive. I just want everyone, that is a super impressive number. In general, like we're getting a sense that if you can deliver a dollar of incremental sales for every dollar spent, you're sort of, achieving success. But I think interestingly here, when you compare it to social and digital, it's outperforming those media. And I have to say, and I mentioned this to Kate, like I was like, wow, social, that's like really amazing, right? I mean, socials, there's a lot of excitement around social. But, the equation here, right? The denominator in the equation is media spend, and social tends to be a little bit more expensive. And the other takeaway, the really critical takeaway here is that out of home and digital out of home are delivering efficient reach. And through delivery of efficient reach, you ultimately drive really superior iROAS. So this is a really big metric. It's a big number for everybody here to be thinking about. If we go to the next slide, 7.4% sales lift. One of the trends that we've seen, and it's actually accelerating quite rapidly, is the combination of out of home with other media, right? Um, Whether it's CTV or linear audio, whatever. And a good example of this is in store. In store, right? If you think about in store, we do a lot of in store measurement. Bundling out of home, right, and having an out of home ad running with a certain radius around the store or stores, where that ad is running in store is a very common tactic now, right? And so the end game here is when you bring out of home together with any other media, right, whether that be in store, linear, et cetera, we're seeing a really big spike in sales effect or sales lift, 7.4%, the median, compared to social and digital at 4.7 and 4.6 respectively. So we're seeing that phenomenon playing out very well with respect to sales lift. This slide it's a little bit confusing. So I want to sort of take you through. So the net of this is that, again, along this lines of out of home plus other media, is that this is disproportionately delivering new buyers, okay? So 80.3, right, of increment of sales lift is due to increases in household penetration. We really look at new buyers as a proxy for household penetration, right? Bringing new buyers to the brand or to the retailer. And we're seeing that out of home plus other media indexes at 119 versus other media standalone. So it is a really good mechanism to drive new buyers. Just quickly, I want to kind of give you a sense for how we arrived at that metric. There's really three drivers of sales or driving incremental sales, right? There's household penetration, right? Increasing the number of buyers in a particular sample, occasions, which trips, and then sales per buying occasion or basket, right? So those three drivers represent 100% of sort of incrementality. And so when you see a media deriving household penetration at 80.3%, that percent of that incremental sales, that's really, really impressive. New buyers, and really the keyword here, driving trial, really exciting. And I'm hearing that a lot more in the marketplace. How do I get a media that could help drive trial? And then finally, we did some analysis. We took a look at all tactics, right? All media tactics and cross-tab those against different categories and subcategories for performance. And these were two categories that really stood out. So Bev Alk, right? In particular, the subcategory spirits, really like out of home, digital out of home, really delivered disproportionately a sales lift for that category, that subcategory. And again, on the right-hand side, when you talk about grocers, right? Retailers that are selling groceries, we saw that out of home and digital out of home were able to deliver more new buyers in that campaign than every other media. So a couple of key categories that I think are really worth looking at if you're in the out-of-home space. With that, I think we want to go a little bit deeper and sort of dive into some case studies that Kate has. So I'm going to pass it back to you, Kate.
Perfect. Thank you, Tom. Amazing data, really good stats,
Yeah.
and everything that Tom just went through is validated by campaigns that we have run together, that we've been partnering on together. So we can show you what this looks like in the real world and on real campaigns. We have two case studies of campaigns that Groundtruth and ABCS partnered together on that really show the effectiveness of layering digital out of home into your media plan. So the first one here is for a drinkware brand that came to Groundtruth with the goal of increasing sales of their product at two specific big box retailers. So we structured the campaign to run ads on both digital out of home and mobile. And we targeted specific audiences and screens around specific locations. I think they were sporting stadiums. And we targeted, audiences, people that we felt were most likely to be interested in that product. So you can see some very high level kind of details of the campaign at the top, like campaign budget, just to give you a kind of contextualize the scale of the campaign, impressions, and then you can start to see some real results from the campaign, like visits and cost per visit and sales lift. So after this campaign, ABCS Insights observed about a 30% increase in sales, a 15% lift in sales per buying occasion. And Tom, I thank you for explaining what all that means before, because I wouldn't be able to do it justice. And a 1.74 return on investment. And all of this is backed by real purchase data, by deterministic purchase data, and it shows the power of amplifying your message using digital out of home. So, really, to put that into context, that's the kind of return that brands are expecting from channels like paid search, like real lower funnel sort of media channels. And so, together we were able to report out on really strong results for this customer. If you go to the next slide, we have one more case study. This is another campaign that we partnered on together. The goal of this specific campaign was to drive purchases of a specific snack brand at CVS. So again, at the top, you'll see some high-level details about the campaign budget, with a portion, of this budget being allocated to digital out of home. You'll see impressions served across the campaign. You'll see the average number of impression per household and sort of why that's important. And then you'll see the number of visits that Ground Truth observed. So with very precise targeting and, again, running across mobile and digital out of home and in partnership with ABCS, we observed a 15% sales lift following the campaign, just under about a 1.7 return on investment. And we saw a 78% lift in household penetration, which beats this specific category norm of 74% in lift. And the results from this specific campaign were so strong that the brand and agency allocated an additional $100,000 for subsequent performance campaigns with Ground Truth. So we were really excited to be able to show the effectiveness again of layering digital out of home into your media plan. And so all of that to say, digital out of home is very much a measurable channel. And more than that, it's a performance channel and it can be held to the same standard as every other performance channel in your media mix. It's no longer the way that I sort of think about it is it's no longer a leap of faith channel. Like we hope it's gonna drive purchases. It's a line item on your media plan that you can defend to the customer and to your CFO at the end of the day. So, Tom, I think we might have one more slide. I'm going to tag you back in to talk about how, brands and agencies should be thinking about digital out of home and really what they should be doing about it right now.
Great. Yeah. Thanks, Kate. One of the things that we talk about in our company is how do we make media more valuable? Like that's sort of our mission here. And like to see 100K incremental spend, right? Secured as a part of, the measurement we provided is just so exciting. That's why we're here. That's what we're doing. Right. And so just a couple of and I have four takeaways. There's a fourth one that's not on here. One is we do believe consistent measurement across channels means that you can compare out of home very fairly against other media and vie for budget, right? We think that's a really important piece of what we do here. Digital out of home absolutely deserves a line, right, in the performance budget. It's not just for branding. I think we've hammered that message pretty hard here. That's for sure. There's data, it's empirical. This is not just a branding mechanism. And then finally, we're seeing certain brands lean into this sort of initiative using digital out of home and out of home to drive performance. And I think we're seeing a competitive advantage being built there as a result of it. The final comment I'll make here, it's really more of an internal stat, but I think it's sort of representative of what's happening here in the marketplace. I took a look at campaigns that we ran sales effect for that were out of home or digital out of home. And I compared 2024 to 2025. In 2024, we ran 77 campaigns. We measured 77 campaigns where it was out of home or digital out of home media. Okay. In 2025, that 77 went to 420 campaigns, right? So over 500% year on year increase. And I think that really speaks to two things: the momentum of this media, for sure, but also the momentum of this media being a performance medium. So, with that, we'll close. Kate, I just want to thank you again for participating. You were awesome. Thank you. And we will pass it back to Barry.
Thanks, Tom and Kate. That was really great and wonderful presentation. And it is where the medium is today. It started as a top of funnel branding awareness reach medium, and now it is a full funnel medium. So thanks for exploring that. And you know what? You should talk to Zach Sherman. Maybe there's a place for this at our summit because it's a very important story to tell. Of course, at our summit, we really just put brands on stage, but have a chat with Zach. Maybe he can figure something out. So at a high level, and then we'll get to some of the questions in the chat. How do you folks work together? Clearly very well, but like who exactly does what? And maybe you could just do that. And then I got a couple of other questions, and think of any other questions, anybody on this call as well. Thanks, guys.
Well, I can provide a perspective, and Kate, feel free to jump in. But essentially, Groundtruth has a really excellent sales team, and they're out there talking about how they can deliver insights into whatever KPI, frankly, they're looking to do. And so they're doing that. As they go through that sales process, they will typically send a note to us and say, hey, ABCS Insights, we need to understand, like, can we do a sales effectiveness measurement here, or or a brand effect measurement, whatever they're looking for. And then we confirm feasibility, and they use that data to help close the business that they have, suggesting that they will validate the outcomes that they're suggesting they can deliver. So, Kate, I don't know if you've got a different perspective there, but that's kind of from our side, kind of how I see it.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. We tactically, we are getting RFP'd every day by brands and agencies, and we put together thoughtful media plans to achieve the specific goal of the campaign. And if that campaign includes, purchases, sales lift, ROI, we then immediately reach out to our friends at ABCS Insights, and we work together on structuring the campaign that will best get to
Mm.
the outcome that the customer wants to drive. More and more over the last couple of months, to year, digital out of home is becoming a a bigger channel on these media plans, which again is great to see because it's measurable and it's very effective.
And I love, Kate, when you say every impression should be accountable. Um, is that on your wall in your office?
I'll add it. I'll add it.
Okay, I
But
love
it's
it.
true.
I'm going to put it on my wall and have you as the quote.
There you
So
go.
that's very key. How would other companies work with you? Say, I mean, whether it's publishers, brands, or agencies. What's the best way to access these facilities here?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, oh, sorry. Go ahead, Kate. I
Good.
apologize. Go.
No,
No.
no, I could speak, maybe for
Yeah.
the ground truth side, and then Tom, you
Yeah.
tag in. Brands and agencies typically partner with Ground Truth through a managed service capacity. So we have a full sales team and managed team that executes and activates campaigns on behalf of our agencies and brands. We also have a self-serve platform that thousands of SMBs, tier 2, tier 3 agencies are signed up on and go ahead and activate campaigns completely independently from anyone at Ground Truth, though, we have a team to support them along the way. So if, go to our website, reach out to me if you're looking to partner with Ground Truth in any capacity. And then Tom,
No, that was the right answer to the question. That was the question. How do we partner with you, Kate? And we are just here to support you. So, no, that was the right answer. Barry, what else we got?
Yeah, so Paul Florangis, who's an industry veteran after his on-air newscasting work. He'd always come with good questions. He says, "Great stuff." So thank you, folks. I agree. Do you see any varying degrees of success or not when you look at different digital out-of-home verticals like place-based or transit, transport? Paul is now running the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey, retail, et cetera. So by kind of categories of digital out-of-home, do you see much of a variation?
Yeah, I think we do and have a more detailed analysis of categorical performance. I shared a couple of categories that are really performing well. But yeah, I think we can slice and dice this data anyway, size of ad, location near or far from retailer. There's a lot of different dimensions that we can bring to the table to analyze this a campaign and the success of a campaign. So yeah, I mean, we're capturing where the sale happened, where the ads happen, timestamp, and so can slice and dice the data really any way you'd like.
And just
Great. In terms of the capture, Chloe from Simon Media, can you talk a little bit more about how the study's conducted? Chloe's worked with Lumen in the past, using eyeglasses to detect effectiveness. Your thoughts on gathering some of that information?
Yeah, I mean, I can see Jerome Shimizu wanting to jump in here. So Jerome is our CEO and really chief research officer. So Jerome, why don't you take this one?
Well, just going back to I was going to actually add to the last comment there for Barry. I'm going to take it as an action item to add to the normative database, air, land, and sea dimensions. But we don't have that right now, but we'd like to add that for the.
Absolutely. And we're going to put that to music. Deacon, work on some music. Actually, yeah, you should have some music come out of the helicopter when you're doing that.
And then back to how this is how this research is being conducted. One of the key things here that was difficult to crack with digital out of home was identifying exposure. That's the fundamental
Right.
puzzle that was tough. And as I think everyone on this call knows better than anyone, the IDs getting generated off of these digital out of home screens are not very useful because they're the identifiers of like a device. They have nothing to do with the consumers. We need to figure out who the consumers were that were exposed to that. And so what we've created is this three-prong technology for identifying it, integrating with some existing industry infrastructure. So the first thing we do is we work with the leading ad servers for digital out of home, and they're able to hook into us directly IDs that they can identify as exposed. The second dimension to it is geofencing technology. So we have all that geofencing data in-house at ABCS. So we'll geofence locations and figure out who was exposed, which of our panelists were exposed there. But the third dimension to our exposure that we've added, which I think is a contribution to this industry in terms of improving the quality of measurement, is what we call purchase-based exposure, PBE. And so what we do is for certain locations, especially let's talk about like urban locations. Imagine someone goes into a bar. There could be a screen inside of that bar. Let's say you didn't turn on your phone, or there's a stacked location. You might not be able to identify that exposure as well using those other approaches. But what we still see, even in that situation, is that someone went in there into the restaurant and bought a burger at the right time, at the right place, where this screen is located, or they bought a drink. And so we add that third level of accuracy, which I think is intriguing here, to bring in a better list of who's exposed. Now, once you have who's exposed, that opens up all of the ABCS measurement. I can look at audience, I can look at brand, I can look at consideration, I can look at sales, all the different return objectives of advertising or outcomes of advertising from there.
Thank you, Jerome. Just hit those three again.
A is for audience, B is for brand, C is consideration, S is sales. So that's kind of the ABCS philosophy.
Yeah, but I mean the three types of generating the exposure.
Yes, three types of generating exposure. Specialty ad server integration. So think like a Vistar, something like that. We're available inside of Vistar. If you don't have, if you're doing your own ad serving, we can geofence your locations. and identify exposure ourselves with that technology. And then the third way, in certain situations, is what's called purchase-based exposure. When the screen is near a particular point of interest, we can actually look at purchases happening there. That could be really powerful, especially if you think about like grocery stores, things like that. We can see people buying individual products in individual categories and aisles. A lot of things can open up using that kind of technology. And I'll just add one other thing while we're on the topic. Like digital out of home to me is kind of saying what it's not. It's not. It's like out of the home as a description of this genre. But to me, very often, digital out of home means on the way to the POS, right? And that's just such an exciting thing. We're on the way to the POS as a vertical. That if I was a brand, like wow, that sounds
Yeah,
like
100%, Jerome. I can't agree more. We're looking at WPP's projecting $200 billion in retail media this year spend. Yet most of that is online, Amazon and others. Yet, once again, 85% of purchases take place in physical stores, and our DPWA members around the world reach people on their daily journey, on their path to purchase, and increasingly more at the point of purchase. So, Jerome, you're absolutely right. We can deliver to brands where the majority of purchases take place. So, and you said you also have an ability to get through the stacked environments, which I guess you're talking about like a mall, right, or something.
Yeah, exactly. So that purchase-based exposure, if it's in downtown New York, things can be all stacked up. I know that you bought something in this bar, so you were definitely there because I can look at the purchases.
By the way, but what I mean by stack for everybody is where it's different levels, which it's a little tough to discern mobile wise, since it may look at the mobile in the same vertical to tell the difference in stacking. So thank you for that. And as Bod says, yes, we reach everybody on their last mile right before purchase. Mary Perella, great stuff. Thanks, Kate. Are the purchases being measured by retailer receipts on a product level or interview based? I think we said retailer receipts or self-reported purchase. Any add to that, Kate, or did Jerome talk to that?
I think Jerome, you
Yeah.
covered that. But if any more questions, okay. There is David. You had a good question in here, which is, this is eye-opening sort of stats, but why is digital out of home still such a small part of the media mix, and what all should we be, doing about that? I do have thoughts. I think, like it starts here. It starts with education and awareness, but at a tactical level, one of the things that we have our sellers do is when we get RFPs for, oftentimes agencies or brands are saying, we want to run on mobile or we want to run on CTV, but our goal is we want purchases, we want sales. We challenge the desire that they have to only run on a specific channel. And we say you should also be considering digital out of home, or you should also be considering this sort of more omni-channel approach. And we'll include stats that from ABCS Insights that say why digital out of home is such an effective channel. And we see a lot of success that way. So it's like, all the stuff that we all are doing here, the webinars, the events, the awareness of digital out of home. But then, I think that you have to get really tactical with your sales teams and have them make sure that they understand the effectiveness of it too, because at the end of the day, they're the ones that are getting it on the media plan or not. So I think it's, you kind
Exactly.
of have to like attack it from both angles.
Yeah, and you're right. And David Weinfeld, who inspired that question, was on a panel last year for our summit, a CTV digital at home panel, where our member Mad Hive actually had a great line as everybody was debating the nuances of measurement and MMN, saying measurement is really just a proxy for outcomes. And what we're showing here today is that the medium does deliver outcomes. And at the end of the day, at the beginning of the day, that's what advertisers are looking for. I think we've covered it. Anybody just want to kind of raise and pipe in if you've got a question? And in our last few minutes remaining, we try to to give everybody back their time. Anything further from anybody? You just want to raise your hand. You could chat out a question. It's okay.
Yeah, just quickly, actually, how easy is it to actually integrate to POS and CMS together?
So we actually have all of our data independently from the POS systems, right? So we don't need cooperation from the retailer. We already have all the sales data on our side. So it's a receipt-based system, receipt panel. So we have a relationship with the consumers rather than the retailers, which makes this much more flexible and scalable because it can be difficult to get that. Not to mention, many of the retailers don't have that data available at the household or consumer level. It's at the store level data, which is really important for this particular methodology.
So there's
That's
really no
excellent.
need to actually integrate, right?
No.
Okay.
Yeah. It's
Um,
turnkey. We just need to understand how we can track the ads. We'll work with you on that, and then everything else is turnkey. And really, for the DPAA community, we've enjoyed being a part of it and excited for more to come. So thank you very, very much.